Hello, hello. It's your astrologer friend Kimberly coming to you on the Sagittarius new moon. Now, I'm going to rename this segment The Art of Astrology. The Art of Astrology, just to get some diction in there. The Art of Astrology. And later on, we're going to look at some charts of people born on a new moon in Sagittarius, just to keep it consistent and on theme. Although, as this podcast video series does develop, I do intend on incorporating more in-depth analysis of different people born under the zodiac sign of the time. I was going to do a deep dive into Brad Pitt, but sadly, I have just been so time poor that has not happened. I did think he was a fairly fascinating Sagittarius character because he is a sun and rising Sagittarius. Anyway, that will happen in due course. For now, let's get into the Sagittarius new moon as it stands. And I think the thing that I have to kick off with, first of all, is just underscoring the most prominent aspect with this new moon, and that's the fact that it squares Neptune. It also squares Saturn, and that pairing really call for us to analyze or look back and reflect on what we've learnt during Neptune's tour through Pisces. So Neptune moved permanently into Pisces in 2012. I mean, we can't say this enough, right? We cannot emphasize this enough. I've seen people making little Instagram posts about it, tweets about it, but I implore you as an astrologer and as a Sagittarius moon, I implore you to really try and think about the arc of your life in Pisces terms, i.e., looking at the Pisces house of your horoscope and what has transpired through Neptune's journey. What has Neptune delivered? What has he washed away? Where have you grieved? Where have you purged? What has been transpiring for you during this decade plus? It's been about 14 years of Neptune's transit. What's gone on? I mean, a lot has happened to me. I've had a ninth house Neptune transit as a Cancer rising, and I've literally uprooted myself. Is that the right word? It sounds very earthy, but anyway, I've left my home country and gone abroad. When Uranus went through Pisces, I was also abroad. So it seems to be a consistent theme given I have a Sagittarius moon and a Venus a ninth house Venus. Anyway, try and connect the dots. What has Neptune delivered? For some people, it will have been the journey of becoming a parent and giving birth to children. For others, it may have been a complete overhaul of their professional image and their career trajectory. I mean, over a decade is a really long time, so it shouldn't be too difficult to find some really, really solid examples. And if you're struggling, do ask me, because if we know each other, I probably have been on your behalf tracking your Neptune cycle too. So I can probably help you out. So with that, Neptune and Saturn are in this really prominent place in the horoscope chart here, square the new moon. We've got the sun and the moon at 28 degrees Sagittarius. We've got Venus at 24 and Juno at 26. Juno is the asteroid that is the marriage indicator in astrology. And so the fact that Juno and Venus are so tightly aligned together in Sagittarius really makes me think that this new moon kind of has a lot to do with relationships. I'm just going to leave it there. Like I've been in touch with a Gemini over the past few days, and they are having, of course, as would be expected, a really, really big situation around an intimate relationship. And it speaks to new beginnings, but it's so much deeper than that, of course. So sun, moon, father, mother, king, queen, Juno, wife, Venus, the goddess of beauty, attraction, love, flirtation. Those four together is a really, really strong, prominent signature. It's new beginning energy. It's kind of relationship energy. And it's squaring Saturn and Neptune. Saturn being the roadblock, the planet that says no, the planet that lays down boundaries, borders, and walls and says, do not cross. Neptune, this unrelenting wave, this not locomotive, hydromotive, I don't know what, hydropowerful, propulsion of waves. We all know how powerful a wave can be as it comes and goes. It literally wears away the rocks, smooths down edges. And so, as we're trying to bolt from the gate, as we're trying to allow our horses to gallop forth on a race, we are not going to get very far because the boundaries are still erected and the watery Poseidon influence is so pervasive right now. So, on the one hand, I want to be very optimistic about this new moon. I mean, the sun and the moon are the cosmic objects that we really can see from our perspective on Earth. So, there's got to be something said for that. But we can't neglect to notice the influence of Saturn and Neptune. So, I would say be optimistic, light your candles, you know, send a flare into the dark, gaze at the twinkling stars, but also note where the mist is fogging up your screen, you know. We'll also mention that Mercury is here at 10 degrees, absolutely square the North Node. The North Node is the karmic point of entrance ways or increasing. This is the point where we're bringing in, and Mercury square that just gives a discordant nature to our thinking, to our grand ideas. Mercury in Sagittarius is very, off key anyway. So we might be shooting for things, we might be hoping for things, we might be really going about things with great enthusiasm, but I'm not necessarily thinking that they're going to land with I don't want to say longevity, but whatever you're wishing for on this new moon, allow it to be with a bit of a pinch of salt. That's what I'd say. I will also put a little positive caveat there. The ruler of this new moon is Jupiter in Cancer. That's exalted. Jupiter is trine Saturn, widely trine Neptune. It's retrograde. So it's not operating really well, but it is exalted. So for me, it feels like there's a wistfulness to this new moon. There's kind of like a sort of somber sadness to this new moon, but there's also kind of like this twinkling, nurturing ray of hope. I've looked at the full moon corresponding to this new moon. I'm not seeing anything particularly interesting going on. Saturn will be in Aries. It's a good 18 months from now. I was not particularly massively enamored with the chart, so I'm not going to go on too much about that. But what I will say is that relationships are very worth a punt if you want to do work of any nature. I think the best kind of work that we could be doing right now is resetting relationship expectations. They could be platonic relationships, work relationships, marriage relationships, any kind of relationships. I feel like this new moon is about relationships. So that's my 2 cents. Now let's move on to the fascinating exercise of analyzing people born on a Sagittarius new moon. Now, first off, I want to say that I've been doing research for years, obviously. A long time ago, I did a bit of research that I discovered that the Nutcracker debuted on a new moon in Sagittarius in, I think, Moscow. Of course, it was definitely Russia. And so I love the idea that the costumes and the vibrancy and the score of the Nutcracker is totally new moon in Sagittarius coded. We can get excited. We can be full of wonder at the characters of the Nutcracker Ballet. However, when I then went to my trusty website, Astro Theme, and plugged in the combination of Sun and Moon in Sagittarius, lo and behold, there are some really choice characters coming up born under this particular configuration. So you've got the first person that comes up is Ted Bundy. Now, I haven't recently watched a documentary on Ted Bundy, so I'm not even going to attempt to comment on his chart. Another interesting one is Beethoven. I think it's really lovely if we can listen to some Beethoven over the next few days. When we look at Beethoven's chart, he's got Sun, Moon, and Mercury really closely configured in Sagittarius. I'm not going to comment more on Beethoven, but go ahead and listen to some Beethoven. Andrew Tate. I'm not going to comment on Andrew Tate, but I can see how he could be this Sagittarius character. I don't analyze him. I don't really engage with Andrew Tate. I think he's really obnoxious. The clips that I've seen of him, of course, he must be incredibly insecure. I don't even want to look at his chart, let's face it. I do not even want to go there. Who I did find interesting, also, yeah, there just seems to be some interesting characters on this list. I do encourage you to always look up the list of people. So, someone who's really, really lovely to look at is Natasha Bedingfield, who has a good bunch of planets in Sag, new moon baby, born on a new moon in Sagittarius, with Neptune co-present in the sign and Uranus, Sun closely aligned with planet Uranus. Now, her song has been trending in recent times. Feel the rain on your skin. So I just looked up the lyrics to see how Sagittarius coded they are. And I think they are. We don't have a birth chart for her, but I love these few lines, bearing in mind she has Mercury really closely configured with her new moon. Oh, sorry, not Mercury, Uranus. Mercury's there in Scorpio, so it's kind of lagging behind. But she puts here, staring at the blank page before you, open up the dirty window, let the sun illuminate the words that you could not find. Reaching is a very Sagittarius word. Reaching for something in the distance. That's very Sagittarius, isn't it? And this is the kind of culminating point of the song. Reaching for something in the distance, so close you can almost taste it. Release your inhibitions, Sun Uranus. Feel the rain on your skin. Now, we don't know what her rising sign is, but maybe feel the rain on your skin. She does have Venus in Capricorn, which is the zodiac sign that governs skin. Feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you. Only you can let it in. No one else can speak the words on your lips. Drench yourself in words unspoken. Live your life with arms wide open. Very Sagittarius. Today is where your book begins. I like that as a Sagittarius anthem. I think we can all listen to that over the next couple of days. I sure will. Okay, so that was someone born on a new moon, Natasha Bedingfield. Natasha Bedingfield. Diction. Joan Didion. I don't know her writing. Jackie Stallone. I was watching the Big Brother series when Jackie Stallone, Jackie, was in the house. But again, I'm not really super familiar with her story. Of course, I know her son, Sylvester Stallone. But looking at her birth chart is pretty fascinating. Again, like I haven't deep dived into Jackie Stallone, but she does have this sun moon in Sag. She has Venus, Mercury in Scorpio, and apparently she's an astrologer. She has Pluto on the midheaven as well. It gives a pretty, I don't want to say dark energy, but like it seems like a pretty intense energy. Let's use that word. Anyway, Jackie Stallone, I don't know enough about her to comment, but Jackie Stallone looks a bit like the person that I have pulled up their chart previously because I watched the documentary on her, and that is Patrizia Gucci, Lady Gucci, who is responsible for the death of her husband, who was the heir to the Gucci empire. Now, She's pretty fascinating in terms of a new moon in Sagittarius figure because she also has Mercury in Sagittarius and the ascendant in Sagittarius. Her sun is exactly conjunct the ascendant, and we do have a confirmed birth time for her. So guys, now I know she's not an artist, she's a criminal, but she makes a fascinating case study to say to ourselves, well, here is someone with a real considerable embodied archetype signature of Sagittarius. And so when we're thinking about fire sign Sagittarius and we're saying to ourselves, well, what does Sagittarius energy look like? What does Sagittarius energy sound like? What does Sagittarius energy bring forth into the collective? What's it all about? Well, Patricia Gucci is one such woman who we might look at. Now, of course, she is a murderer. She's a criminal. She's definitely, a bad lady. When we're looking at the birth chart, what suggests that if we were trying to trace back to her early beginnings, where would we find this dreadful signature of dastardly behavior in the birth chart? Well, we don't have to scrutinize too far. It's pretty obvious. She's got her Mars in Capricorn conjunct Jupiter, the chart ruler, the ruler of her sun, the ruler of her Mercury, the ruler of her entire chart, and the ruler of her moon. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, but in opposite sign Capricorn, it is in its detriment. It is not happy. Mars is in its exaltation. It's strong. It has got tools. It is equipped to take action. It's almost like a little chiseling wood chipper is Mars in Capricorn. So Mars active, Mars well placed, like Mars well dispositioned to take action, conjunct a planet that's not very happy but expands. I mean, that's just an expansive amount of anger, isn't it? And I think if you watch Lady Gaga portray this character, she probably did a fairly good job. I'm not saying she's the best actress, but she probably did her best. She probably did a good job. And I remember her strutting in the early scenes when she's playing the part of the secretary. She really sort of struts across the construction site, if you remember. She's kind of very powerfully strutting. So we can only imagine that Patrizia Gucci also did that. And this ambition that she was so bestowed with, she was so graced with this like overly ambitious nature, and maybe that's what drove her to act as well. So that Sagittarius sun right on the ascendant, could we say a buoyancy? I don't know. I mean, don't know about you, but when I visualize Patrizia Gucci, I'm not seeing that jovial, saggy energy. So it just goes to show how much the Capricorn Jupiter, which guides all of that energy, has really kind of like been responsible for letting her down in a way, or letting the chart down, we could say. Anyway, that's not such a pleasant chart to analyze, but interesting. Then, as a more fashion oriented artistic execution, we also have Jill Sander, who was born right on a new moon again, moon, sun, Mercury, and Sagittarius rising. Very similar chart to Patricia Gucci. Venus in Libra, which is very, very nice for a fashion designer. Jupiter in Leo, also nice for a fashion designer, and all that Sagittarius energy. She did leave her home country of Germany to go and do a work placement in Los Angeles to learn her craft. I haven't scrutinized her biography because I'm just not that much of a massive fan of Jill Sander. I'm just not. So I didn't go overboard in analyzing, even when I look at some of her clothes on the internet on Google image search. It's not my jam. There was one or two collections a few years ago that she did that I did like, but I couldn't find any images of them. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But again, interesting that Jill Sander is a triple Sagittarius slash quadruple Sagittarius, given she's Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Rising. I mean, guys, I love Versace, as in Gianni Versace. Donatella, fine. She's very Taurus, but Gianni Versace was mega Scorpio and Sagittarius. He's a Sagittarius fashion designer. So when I think of Sagittarius fashion, I really want it serving high level Gianni Versace vibes. And Jill Sander, I'm sure she's of course, she'll be absolutely incredibly respected by everybody in her field. I'm not saying I'm right because I'm really not going to quote myself on that. But I'm just saying, like, for me, I'm not seeing anything stand out. So that's my take on that. And other than that, on the list of Sagittarius people, I didn't necessarily see anybody standing out in particular. So that's my new moon in Sagittarius little video there. It's late and I am just ready for the end of the year to draw closer. How about you? Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful festive season. And I hope that Neptune and Saturn aren't taking the wind out of your sails too much. Anyway, I will link all my little reels down below. Lots of love and see you next time.